We then tried to link these sections together to make sure that it fitted with the music. So the leg weaves with the gun scanning, the turn back through and ducking the bullets, and then straight into the explosive jumps. For the next section, I decided to do a conga movement. I then fitted this into the story by firing my gun in time with the music. At the end of this phrase, there are 3 very distinct beats, 2 which are the same and 1 slightly different, so I played around with different ways that I could accentuate these. Here, we tried a spin, followed by a twirl in the opposite direction, and then a paddle for the third. While I liked this sequence, it was a little bit slow to fit with the music, so I wasn't entirely convinced that it worked as well as it could do. Here we tried the spin and twirl, followed by a turn to the front of me. Again, I wasn't quite convinced this fitted as well as it could, and also left her in a slightly awkward position. We tried a slightly different variation, which I liked and fitted well, but again left her in a slightly awkward position, giving me a high five. I'd already decided that for the next section I wanted to incorporate her backward leg weaves, as there wasn't a large amount of backward movement in the routine so far. So here I tried a spin into middle, and this flowed much nicer. This meant I could move into my backward leg weaves whilst looking out for the enemy as we moved backwards, and then into our reversing arounders move. I still wasn't entirely convinced by the way she gets out from between my legs though. I decided to try the section with music to see how it felt. Here we tried a pivot, but I still wasn't convinced that it flowed as nicely as it could. The reversing out from between my legs felt much nicer. Here I tried a slightly longer reverse before dropping into the backward leg weaves. The music allowed for this, and I felt that it flowed nicer and made the link much more easy and seamless for Elsa. We then wanted to work on our ending. We decided to end it that the enemy had caught up with us. I held my hands up in surrender and she jumped over to accentuate the beats at the end of the song. We then get shot and end dead on the floor. I then decided to play around with start poses. I often don't start with these. It's important that they're interesting to set the scene for the routine and catch the judge's attention. Initially, I started with her on my shoulder and swapped different hands to be looking out with to see which looked best. I then decided that was a bit predictable, and I quite liked the idea of her in a bar in front of me, shielding me so that I could point the gun. And then that meant she could creep around me into middle position. I later realised there was a little bit too much music, so I added in a creep around me twice before going into middle. Here's the run of the routine. Bearing in mind this was the first time she'd actually done this routine. Apologies for the camera angle, she is actually creeping at this point. Once the basic choreography is in place, you can start to work on each individual bit and neaten it up. Don't forget to keep rewards random, not always at the end of the routine or at the end of certain sequences, otherwise the dogs will start to predict it. Over the next week, have a go at choreographing your own routine. It only needs to be short if it's your first one. Try to find a piece of music that suits you and your dog, or if you're really stuck for ideas, you can use this piece of music now that you have some ideas to start with. Try to establish the theme of the music and the story. A way that I like to look at it is to think, who am I and who is the dog? What characters do we play and what story are we trying to tell? I find this makes choreography much more easy because you know exactly what story you're trying to tell the judges and the audience, so the moves come more naturally. Also, make sure that you listen to the music to understand where the different phrases are and what each different type of music sounds like. Some people find it easier to write things down, others find it easier just to try things. I'm more of a try things kind of person. If you leave the music playing and just move around with the dog, you may start to find that certain moves just sound natural in certain parts of the music. This can be a good place to start. You don't need to start at the beginning. You may choreograph the verse first or the chorus, or it may be that you choreograph the ending first and work backwards. And that's fine. Allow yourself to be creative and try lots of ideas to work out which one suits the music best. The first idea that you try may not be the one that you end up with, and that's fine. It's all part of the process. Just try to keep in mind that each move needs to have a purpose. It should add something to the story, either by the dog's movement or by the movement that you're doing to complement it. Have fun!